Hey guys, welcome back to M6 Trains. Matt here back with another video. Today we're going to be taking a few minutes to address Lionel and the paint issues that they've been having for quite a bit now. No, I'm not trying to add fuel to the fire of the little war or whatever that seems to be going on for whatever reason in the social media. I'm not trying to add to that. I'm just trying to call Lionel out because they've been getting away with this for quite a bit now, and they just seem to not be doing anything about it or changing anything. And I'm just hoping that this video will kind of put some more awareness out there. Hopefully even Lionel will see this and maybe start to make some changes. But anyway, let's get started and we'll talk more about it. So it's no secret that Lionel for quite a bit has had some issues with their paint colors. They can't seem to, for whatever reason, get it right. Not all the time, but it does happen on some colors, and it seems to be pretty consistent. Now, this video, the purpose is not to, create any fire or anything like that, like I said. And I'm not trying to bash Lionel as a company as a whole either, because I don't hate Lionel. I think they make some pretty good stuff. I think there are certain things that they do better than MTH. For example, I think their sounds are great, and there's features that I like better on the Lionel. So I'm not trying to bash them as a whole, because I don't think they're not awful, but this paint thing, it has to be addressed, because if it just keeps going on, they're not going to change anything. We're paying good money for these engines, and it should be right. And it doesn't seem like nobody else seems to have this problem consistently. I'm not going to say that MTH has not had problems themselves. Like, for example, my Long Island RS1, apparently that paint was off. So I'm not just trying to put the blame all on Lionel, but they are consistently getting colors wrong, and when it's consistent, there's an issue, and they should be fixing it. So I'm not saying that MTH is perfect and they're not, because MTH definitely occasionally, not, it's very rare, but they're not perfect either. But like I said, when Lionel is consistent about it, it's a problem. And they're getting colors pretty wrong, and not a whole lot of this isn't a thing where it's like Broadway limited, or there's HO scale stuff for HO companies. It just seems to be Lionel that has this problem consistently, excuse me, because nobody else really seems to have this issue for any other scale, any other manufacturer. It just seems to be Lionel for whatever reason. So anyway, I'm going to give you a few examples here, and these are pretty recent models from them. A few of them I can kind of personally relate to, and we're going to take a look at some of them and just see what I'm talking about here. So first up, we're going to start with more of the new releases from Lionel, and obviously this is a current release. This is obviously the new Dreyfus Hudson from them, and there has been a lot of discussion and talk and complaints about the gray being wrong, it being too light. And listen, is it wrong? Probably. But I will say, who knows what the true color was. These things were out 70, 75, 80 years ago or so. There was no color cameras back then, so it's really hard to tell. But of all the models of the Hudson I've seen, they have been far darker. And obviously, when there is multiple examples from different manufacturers and they all look around the same, you kind of just have to you know, go on that side of things where there's a commonality on their colors, and if Lionel's is different, knowing their history with paint, it's probably wrong. Um, and a lot of guys are saying that it's wrong, it's too light. And I will say there is a commonality with their paint. It seems to be it's always too light. And as we go on, I'm going to talk about their paint quality a little bit later on too. But yeah, so it looks like I said, nobody really knows what the true color was. But if I were to guess, the true color was probably, see how on the Pistons it's a little bit darker gray. I would assume it'd be closer to that. This right here is a older Lionel example of the Dreyfus. This is, I guess, a TMCC version, but it's an older model. As you can see here, there's definitely a difference in color. This is not an MTH version. That's an old Lionel model, and you could definitely see the difference in the grays. And this picture here is definitely closer to all the other brands of their gray on their Hudsons. So this color here is definitely a lot closer to the commonality of the actual gray. Actual in quotations because nobody truly really knows, but if there's a common color, then we're going to assume that that was probably the color. But as you can see, this color here is a lot different from what Lionel put out this year, because this gray is just way too light, almost like white in certain lighting. But yeah, just definitely not the same color as what it should be. Alrighty, so next up, this one is kind of personal. This is the new Eerie Russian Decapod that just came out, and this is the catalog picture of it. As you can see, this engine looks gorgeous. That blue is really cool, like a metallic dark blue with the white walls. This looks really good, and obviously, as you can guess, it did not come out right. Um, big shocker. And I'm going to show you in a minute here. But like I said, this one is personal because I actually pre-ordered this engine and I was looking forward to it a whole lot. And once I saw how it looked in real life, how it actually came out, I was very disappointed, and I actually canceled this order because I was not, I wouldn't say promised, but presented a product that looked similar, that should be similar to this, and it was not this. And I'm not going to pay $1,000 for something that is not accurate to what was advertised. And here's how it came out. So obviously, definitely not the same color, nor anywhere near close to it. This is like a light blue gray almost, but nowhere near the color of what was advertised. And like I said, it was just really disappointing when you're excited about something, you see it in the catalog, you hope it's how it looks, and it's nowhere near it. Plus, these things aren't cheap. There's $1,000 models or so, and you'd expect them to be accurate in how it is advertised. And not saying that this looks bad, because it's not a bad color, but it's not what it's advertised. It's not what it's advertised as. Excuse me. And it's not the Eerie Russian blue either. It's just some kind of weird gray color. And Lionel has also been struggling with other Eerie Russian iron blues as well. And it's another reason why I'd be nervous about the new triplex, because who knows how the color is going to come out, because I promise you it will not be the same as what the MTH's Russian iron blues were. And those are the right colors, or expected to be closer to what it was in person. So yeah, this one was just a low blow, just really disappointing. Like I said, I canceled this order, so Lionel lost the sale of one of these engines just because it wasn't right and it wasn't how it was advertised. So that was disappointing for sure. So next up, we're going to talk about the greens from Lionel. This is another personal item. This is the new-ish Denver and Rio Grande Mogul. That was a custom run for Metka, and as you can see here, this engine is gorgeous. The white walls, that green, beautiful green, like I wouldn't say emerald, but it's like a beautiful green metallic paint, and as you could probably guess, it is not anywhere near how it came out in person. The one in real life came out like a matte finish and kind of darker, I would say. Um, Nowhere near to what was advertised again, so it was pretty disappointing. So I'm glad I canceled that, and I actually just went with the Strasbourg version. But here is a couple other examples of some other greens that they have messed up in recent time. Here is a new Southern Atlantic. This looks pretty nice. Obviously, you can see the paint here. Nice kind of brightest green, and we all know the Southern green. Um, obviously looks very nice. And again, guess what? Shocker. The final product did not look anything like it. As you can see here, it looks kind of more like a matte finish, kind of lighter. Like I said, there's a pattern with Lionel. They seem to be doing lighter colors for whatever reason, so just definitely not how it should be. And here are a couple more examples of the greens, how they're coming out. There seems to be a pattern with the Rio Grande greens as well. Obviously, they're cataloged to be nice and shiny and green, like it's more of a metallic finish, and the way they're coming out is matte, dull, and like a dark green. But the colors aren't terrible. What gets me is that they're just dull and matte, and obviously not how it's cataloged. And when you're paying this much money, it should be accurate to how it's cataloged. And obviously, metallic is more presentable, looks a little bit nicer than the matte finish that they're putting on these engines. Alrighty, next up we have the new Northern Santa Fe Blue Goose fantasy scheme. Now, to be fair to Lionel, this is a fantasy scheme, so it can be whatever it really wants to be. There's since it's fantasy, it doesn't really matter. However, the problem is, again, the way it's cataloged was not how the final product was delivered. As you can see here, this is the catalog version, and here is the final result. As you can see, the colors are all, way off, different, not how it was cataloged. These are a bit lighter and not metallic, how it was in the catalog. So you can definitely see the difference here between the two. And just to compare, here is an MTH version of the actual Blue Goose. And as you can see, the colors are a lot different, different color shades, and the bottom's darker, the top's a little bit more of a, I don't know what the color is for that blue, but obviously it's a lot different. And from what I've seen of other models and HO scale and other scales and all that stuff, this MTH version seems to be on par with all the other models. So I'm going to go with that. This is the true Blue Goose colors, and obviously this is a lot better than what Lionel has put out because this is just way different. But like I said, I will be fair. This is a fantasy scheme, so it kind of can be what it wants to be. But the issue here is when it's not cataloged as advertised and the final product is different from what you expect, it's different. And to be honest, it's just kind of disappointing. Alrighty, so we're going back to the greens now, and this is the new Lionel Legacy L1 Mikado that just came out a little while ago. And as you can probably guess, the color came out different from how it was advertised. And Lionel has had an issue with the Pennsylvania green or the Brunswick green for quite a while now. I don't know if you haven't seen, but they recently came out with the I1s. They came out earlier this month, and they did improve. And I got to give them some credit. They are trying to work to better it. So I got to give them credit where credit is due, and it seems to be a lot better than what it was. And they are trying to get it to the true Brunswick green. So I gotta give them props for trying. So they are trying to work on that. But yes, in recent years, the Pennsylvania Brunswick green has had issues. Again, here is the L1 Mikado, and here is mine. This is, as you can see, the green is more matte, lighter, and it's not close to what it was cataloged. And even in the catalog picture, it looks a little bit green because Brunswick green is supposed to look more black with a hint of green, and as you can see, it's just not close. So still a great engine. It still looks good, and I do enjoy it. So I got to give them some credit there. Continuing with the Pennsylvania Railroad, this is the S1 that they did a few years ago, and this is in the fantasy scheme. So again, it is a fantasy, but this is the Tuscan Red, and obviously Pennsylvania did have Tuscan Red engines in real life. But not obviously the S1 wasn't in Tuscan Red. Again, it's a fantasy scheme, and kind of giving Lionel the fair point that fantasy doesn't have to be realistic. So I'll give him that. But again, one of the things that bothers me is when it's not accurate to as it is advertised. That's what gets me. And here's the actual version of how it came out. As you can see, the red is a lot lighter, different shade. And as you can see in this picture here, that's the actual Tuscan Red, and you can see it's way off, not even close. So there's your Exhibit A right there, that it's not true to the true color, and it's different how it was advertised. And like I said, that's just kind of what gets me the most. So yeah, this is another example of the reds being off. Alright, moving on, I just want to talk for a few minutes about the quality of their paint real quick, and then we'll be finished up here. As you heard a little while ago, I've mentioned that I think that their paint is got a matte finish to it, or it's just too dull. And here's an example, and I feel like, before we get into that real quick, I just feel like even on the black engines recently, like any color that they've done, whether it's black or any color, the paint has just been dull. It's had a matte finish, and it just hasn't had that gloss to it, or that shine, if you will. And here's an example. This is the new-ish Southern 630, the 280 from Lionel, and as you can see to the paint, it's got that matte, that dull finish to it, and I'm really not a fan of it. Now, obviously, I don't know how engines came from the factory back then, because obviously I wasn't around for that. But I mean, from steam engines I've seen at the museum, or just pictures, or just looking at models, they've always had like a glossy finish to it, or shiny metallic metal, look to it, almost like it looks wet even. And it just, these paints that they're using, it just doesn't look right to me for some reason. It just looks like a matte, dull paint. So yeah, it just looks off to me. I don't know why. Here's my MTH Southern 48501 for comparison. As you can see, the black is a lot shinier, looks more wet, if you will, or glossy. It just looks more like a steam engine should. Just brings out the metallic and shines a lot better than the colors Lionel's using. Just so I can compare the two. As you can see, I think that there's quite a difference here between the two. So I don't know what's going on with their paint, but to me it just has been looking dull recently. I don't like it. Alrighty guys, so that's gonna wrap it up for this little rant of Lionel. And like I said, I'm not trying to cut into Lionel, too bad, or say that they suck all around, because I don't think they do. I think they make some pretty solid models, and I think that there are some features and stuff that I really like on Lionel, so I'm not trying to beat on them too bad. But when this issue is consistent, I think it needs to be addressed, and I think we need to just put it out there that they're not perfect, and they are making these mistakes pretty consistently. And for the price we are paying for these models, they should be right, and they shouldn't be happening. Just because, like I said, this issue does not happen anywhere else with any other manufacturer, and it's very rare where somebody else gets a color wrong. So I'm just trying to call Lionel out, and hopefully that maybe they'll see this video, or hopefully it'll get passed around, or other guys will agree and kind of get the word out, and hopefully things will change where they can improve and get the colors right, because they make good stuff, and I want them to succeed, and I want them to have this feedback so they can improve and make things better, and bring better paint colors to their models so they can look good and we can enjoy them properly and how they should be. Like I said, with some fantasy schemes they have a little bit more leeway, but still, when things aren't as they should when they're advertised. It just makes me upset, like I said, because I've had to cancel one or two engines now where it's, not how I thought it was going to be. So anyway, that's the end of my rant. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I appreciate you watching and listening to me blabber on about me hating on Lionel, and I'm sure I'll get some hate in the comments. Long live MTH. I'm just kidding. But anyway, I appreciate you guys listening to this video, and like I said, feel free to pass this around. Hopefully Lionel gets the message and they'll improve and start to change, because this is getting a little bit ridiculous now. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next video.